Welcome to the Female Founder Friday podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay White. I am super excited to be celebrating Women's History Month on the podcast. The truth is, on this show, we celebrate the history that women make every single day. We are always talking about their journeys to being female founders, their greatest achievements, and of course, all the incredible lessons they've learned along the way. And these next 4 episodes during the month of March feature some truly amazing female entrepreneurs as we wrap up our season 3. And would you believe that over the last 3 years and 3 seasons that we've had over 150 episodes, and we are absolutely thrilled to be one of the top podcasts for women in business. Now, we've got something really exciting for season 4. We are going to be launching Female Founder Unplugged. We're going to do a little rebrand here on the podcast, so make sure that you are subscribed and share with all of your friends. Don't forget to take our leadership style quiz now, because we're going to be talking about that during the show today. You're going to hear about the guest's leadership style, and you can compare your own. You can find that link in the show notes. And while you're there, check out the link to my Rockstar Recruitment Bootcamp that is coming up starting the 25th of March. This free 5-day bootcamp is all about helping female entrepreneurs and small business owners feel supremely confident in recruiting the top talent they need for their business. I am pulling out all the tips, all the tricks, all the best practices that I have learned over 20 years working in human resources to help you be awesome at your recruitment and find that rock star. You can find both of those links in the show notes. Now, let's get to today's exciting episode. Awesome. Welcome to the Female Founder Friday podcast. I have with me today Reena Khullar, who is the founder and chief executive officer of Agilis Executive Consulting. And this woman is so remarkable. She has created an organization really out of the pandemic, starting in 2020, which I find so fascinating. And what she does, we're so aligned because, she really focuses on HR strategies that are so unique to an organization's brand identity, really providing that a competitive advantage. And I know that she's all about storytelling, which I absolutely love. So this is going to be a great conversation. She started this business 4 years ago. It is already a global business, 6 continents, 10 countries, absolutely remarkable. And also, Reena and I are part of Lean In here in Calgary because we're both in Calgary together. And so we spend a ton of time working in Lean In, and that is the organization created by Sheryl Sandberg based on her best-selling book that is really all about enabling and empowering women to achieve what they really deeply desire, their ambitions. And so Reena and I spend a ton of time together, which is so fun. She's a member of Ford's Coaches Council. She's Harvard Business Review. This lady is all over it, and we're going to have a great chat today. So Reena, thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here with me.
Lindsay, thank you. What a beautiful introduction. I feel a bit humbled. So thank you. Thank you for the lovely introduction, truly.
Well, I'm super grateful. I mean, we've only been connected for a short period of time, but we've sure developed a great relationship and a great conversation. And I think that's because we are so aligned in the way we look at people, culture, business, HR, how those things all fold together. Certainly you and I are both so passionate about the work of Lean In. And so I was super excited when you said you'd be a guest on the podcast, and particularly because, you started this incredible consulting practice sort of out of the chaos that was COVID. And so I know you've told me a little bit about the journey, but I'd love if you would share that today a little bit more and how you got from there to here in essentially 4 years.
Oh, thank you, Lindsay. It was one of those things I've always thought about Agilis. I just wasn't sure what the name of the corporation would be, but it was probably more a 10-year in my mind. This is the goal I want to do. This is something that I'm going to launch one day. I just wasn't sure, Lindsay, when it would happen, but it was always at the back of my mind that I wanted to redo it. I had opened up a consulting firm back in 2012, Novus HR, and letting that go. It was open for a few years. My children were young. I was home with my son. It was just a perfect balance, I think, to keep me connected to the communities, particularly the professional services community. And it also allowed me to balance the home life with my son as well while he was growing up. So when I had to let that go, and I say I had to let that go, honestly, it's like truly giving something up.
Yeah.
That's really, really hard. It's a part of your soul and heart. And so a large part of that, though, of course, was, life, circumstances, things happen. Not everything, can
Yeah.
go forever. So when the pandemic hit, Lindsay, there was a small window of opportunity. And I thought, I have absolutely nothing to lose. I was at a stage where I'd made a lot of personal decisions. I was building a home. There was so much happening on my personal life that I thought this is the only time that I will be able to put everything I have into this venture in my mind to see if it's actually going to be what I want it to be, or will I just, quietly fold it up in a few years and say, hey, I tried.
Mm.
Um, at least I know.
Yeah.
So, Lindsay, when I opened up Agilis Executive Consulting, the idea was, okay, I had just been accredited in the US for my HR accreditation, and I thought, maybe I'll take this North American. I'll have some North American clients. I can do business in the US. Everything's virtual. Why don't I start doing contracts remotely and work with professional services firms? So what I didn't realize was the branding. People didn't know me outside of um, HR. They saw me as 20 years in Calgary, and at that time I also had a different last name, my former married last name. So I had practiced my entire career essentially as Reena Sharma. And
Mm.
so here I changed my name back to my maiden name, and I thought nobody will know me as Reena Khullar.
Right.
And so I felt like I had to put myself out there in a way that I wasn't just competing with every single HR consultant across North America. I had to compete with myself. I had
Mm.
to bring clients in to see me kind of beyond my bio, beyond my CV. So, how could I do it that could make a mark and be remembered? And so I launched storytelling. I thought, you know what? I'll do on the side is this great consulting contract work. And then a different arm of that will be, why don't I start speaking to executives, talk about our stories, talk about how similar we are, how,
Yeah.
like Lindsay, we hesitate, right? We hesitate to connect with people or contact them because we're scared of, well, they'll say no. I don't want to work with Reena, or I don't know Agilis and they're too new. I never even thought about that. Like I wasn't even worried about rejection or hearing no. What was keeping me up at night was regret that why didn't I do that? I should have, I could have, and
Yeah.
that keeps us
Yeah.
up at night. So
Yeah.
I was like, no, I feel like I wasn't any different than any other person and executive that I was approaching to ask to write about their journey. Um, I started with my father's. I found my father to be the ultimate extraordinary executive man, despite his tough journey here in Canada. And so it was a bit of it was a bit of a gift to honor his legacy of 50 years. And so I wanted him to see just how similar everybody else was that I was reaching out to. Everyone has their highs and lows, everyone has
Yeah.
their obstacles. And so I just didn't realize, Lindsay, once I got on this kind of movement of storytelling and I got this interest in Reena, we really like what you're doing. Next thing you know, 20 articles, 20 months, 10 countries, 6 continents. And 4 years later, a book that's honoring Make a Wish Canada for forever. So you never really know when you have an idea and you just want to kind of pour your creativity into it. I say go for it because you never know where it's going to lead to.
Yeah. You know what? Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing that message because I think, a lot of the women that listen to this show are either, they're somewhere along that journey. They're in the contemplation phase that you talked about, that this actually just didn't happen overnight. It was a journey just to get here.
Right.
And I love that because I think so many women have that idea. It's in their head already,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That there's no perfect timing, but there's a great time.
Um,
Yeah. And then bring your own flavor to it.
Absolutely. You know, Lindsay, fear, I always say this, fear was paralyzing me for so many
Yeah.
years. I had a different personal goal. I was, trekking on that, kind of ignoring my intuition a lot over the course of my journey. And fear would just paralyze me that, no, I can't do that. What if I lose this? The fear of loss is so potent
Yeah.
that it prevents you from basically pursuing your purpose. And here I thought, no, if I'm in a position where I've been blessed by the universe to say, here's your chance.
Yeah.
There is going to be loss. I can't give you what you want without losing something, right?
Yeah.
So I went for it. And, slowly the fear turns to confidence. The more you start believing in yourself, and we talk a lot about self-worth, right? Most of my coaching clients, they struggle after 20 years, changing course, starting a new career, starting a new life. And we talk a lot about worthiness. Where are we? Loss, self-worth. And it's really sad because nobody should feel that way,
No.
but it's normal. Life is hard. Everyone has their challenges. Everyone has a story. And the more we share it, the more we go out there and talk about what didn't work, the
Yeah.
easier it is for people to proceed to what's going to work for them. So I think we
Yeah.
need to be better at just, being a bit more authentic if we can, being brave, being courageous to share those moments that didn't work.
Yeah. I really appreciate you saying that because I think that, that actually, like 130 episodes and 3 years later, that's really what this podcast is all about, is telling those brave stories, right? Really understanding the journey, and that, this woman that I'm hearing on this podcast with this really incredible, successful global business didn't start any different than I did. She knew there was fear, and she knew the fear held her back for a long time. And then
Mhm.
she decided she wasn't going to let the fear hold her back anymore, and she embraced that it was scary, and she did it anyways.
Okay.
And I think, if nothing else, that's the message that has come through in this podcast over and over and over again. We all have different journeys, we all have different experiences. You're right. We all have different shit that happens in our life, right? Like, it's hard. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
but you don't have to allow the fear to have the power over you. You can move forward and do it. You can just do it. And yeah, even some of the most successful women in the world still still have self-doubt, live with it every day, right? That self-judgment is so present,
It is.
even in the most successful. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so normal. I think we need a community, similar to Lean In, and other organizations where we can openly share our thoughts, openly share why we're here, our vulnerabilities.
Mhm.
So if we don't have that opportunities available to us to be able to reach out and say, hey, I don't know what I don't know. I'm trying to learn.
Yeah.
Um, could you help me? How
Yeah.
can I help you? Could you help me? And often for the longest time, Lindsay, at this point when I launched Agilis, I had just completed 20 years of experienced HR leadership, predominantly against law firms and professional services firms. And I don't know, I was so at a stage where I'd made so many decisions personally. Up until this point, it was like I was living two parallel lives, the
Mm,
corporate one and the personal one. And
yeah.
I knew really, I had owned it. I thought, nope, this is my personal life and this is my professional one. And I never connected the two. And in the workplace, Lindsay, I remember there were just every 2 years, I would look for a new opportunity. It was a growth opportunity, of course,
Yeah.
professionally for me, but it was also an opportunity for me. I'm going to use the word escape because it was always that 2-year mark where I started feeling, uh-oh, I think I'm feeling connected. I am getting attached. I
Ah,
like this team. And it was a defense mechanism for myself where, nope, time to keep moving. And I still do it. I'm still guilty of it, but almost self-sabotage relationships that are meaningful and inspiring and close to me in fear that I would become too attached and in fear of losing them. So
oh,
the corporate world was very different for me, and I would come home and be a completely different personal life.
um, what a beautiful reflection. How interesting.
Uh,
And I think the funny part is I'm quite the opposite. I worked of an almost 30-year career. 20 years of that, I worked for two organizations, like a decade each,
mhm,
developed deep relationships. And you're right, it does make it hard to leave. Like ultimately, it is the same premise underneath, which is I'm going to lose these relationships in some way, whether I leave or they leave, people are
mhm,
going to move on. But isn't that interesting, Reena? What a curious observation.
I was so afraid of loss, Lindsay, and the nature of the work that I do was with people
Yeah.
organization, people strategy development. So it's easy to, I guess, interact with people in the organization that you get to know them personally as
Yeah.
well. And it was always, I remember, I thought, oh, okay, time to move, time to go. Next project is almost like I was a PM of my life corporately for the last 20 years. You know, and at home things were different. I was a completely different woman at home, different
Interesting.
relationships, right? A
Yeah.
different spouse, a different mom.
Yeah.
Uh, Agilis gave me the chance, I think, to finally bring it together. Um,
Ah,
Finally kind of intertwine personal professional, how closely related our personal professional lives are. And
yeah.
once I realized how happy I was with the woman that I was becoming and the person I was and the mom I was, it was almost impossible to go back to living two parallel lives. I
Yeah.
realized, okay, this is who I want to be. I don't know what the next 20 years are going to be like, but I can't keep running away from relationships and people in my life that want to be there or want to get to know me more personally or intimately because I need to kind of run away to the next
Yeah.
project. So Agilis forced me to have a relationship with these 20 wonderful executives, to have phenomenal relationships with my clients, and also keep an open mind as a single woman now in 2024, keep an open mind to the type of relationships I want to welcome into my life as well on a personal level. So I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot.
Really love that. I love that that creating your own practice, your own small business has not only been a great adventure professionally, but that it's really expanded your experience personally. And I do think being an entrepreneur, and I didn't create this phrase, but I love it. Like every day is a school day. You are learning, and the learning curve is often straight up, right? Like as an entrepreneur, it's hard lessons. But I love that some of your most important and profound ones were actually on the personal side.
Mhm.
But starting and being in your own practice during COVID and over the last few years has actually offered you incredible opportunity for personal growth. That's
You
cool.
know, absolutely. I always knew what I loved corporately and
Yeah.
professionally. I wasn't sure what I loved about myself personally as a woman, as a
Yes.
human being. So I
That
think,
is so cool.
isn't it beautiful just finding yourself again? And I
Yeah.
just feel it also offers me, Lindsay, like this, like an opportunity to bring the best of myself now to the
Yeah.
table where
Yeah.
I don't necessarily feel, when you're in a long-term relationship and you're changing, and sometimes there's a fork in the road and
Mhm.
you don't realize that you've kind of split and been on it for a while solo. I guess now going through so much healing and self-awareness and kind of so much introspection that I know who I am. I'm excited to bring that to the table and the best version of myself that I possibly can, where I may not have been able to do that years and years ago, or even up to even a couple of years ago.
Love it.
So
I love
2024 is significant. I'm excited.
it's gonna be a great year. I like for real. I'm super pumped too. But I do thank you. I really appreciate you sharing that with such vulnerability, with a little bit of humor, with like incredible style, because I think for so many female entrepreneurs that starting and building and growing our own business is such an incredibly enrapturing journey. We have to bring all of ourself to it. And that makes it a little bit harder because we are so invested, right? But there's
Yeah,
so many growth opportunities for us if we really just step into it.
I know.
I love
Lindsay, it's so I work with, clients who've been in a, corporation for 20 years.
it. Mhm.
And they grew it, they had partnerships, they grew the team, and 20 years later they feel like, okay, it's time for me to leave and do something else. So they're giving up essentially a large part of who they are,
Yeah,
their identity, right? Their
yeah,
identity. But in that as well, it's hard for the team to see them go.
sure.
They're mourning not only the loss of this life, but they're mourning the loss of relationships that were with them.
Yeah,
And so when we think about that, and I coach, I do a lot of coaching on this. When we think about that, it's so easy to attribute our success to those that are around us at the time that we're achieving it.
yeah,
In reality, that success is really what you're achieving. It's your ambition, your work ethic, your drive to the goal.
yeah,
Um, my role, and I always say this, either in an organization or even in the partnership that I was in, wasn't to be the catalyst or the person to help achieve that success. My role was simply to make sure that my partner always knew that he could.
yeah,
And I think that that is something that organizations need to really zone in on is in any relationship, personal or professional, our role is to make sure that the other person can achieve what they're out to do. And we're not responsible for the success. They have the right to celebrate it. They have the right to feel great
yeah,
about it.
yeah. No,
So that was hard.
I like that a lot. And what I would add to that is they get to own the journey, they get to own the success, and they also get to own and experience the failures, the missteps, and we can't step in and fix because in fact we take away agency at that point. We can always support and love and coach and cheer and provide expert, right? Like we can be right there beside them. But
Right.
all of those experiences, all the beauty and richness that it is in that has to belong to them.
Absolutely. And
Love it.
it's hard. It's hard. You know
Yeah,
what? I'm the first to say when you journey together for so long, right,
yeah.
you become strong, like you become a good team.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm the first to say, my ex-husband and I, we made a great team. We had great goals. We knew exactly how to work together. It was a strong partnership. And we were able to achieve success. We had a 20-year goal. We were able to achieve that together because we understood
Yeah.
one another's strengths and weaknesses. So again, partnership is great. But then there comes a time where people change,
Yeah.
right? Love changes, people change, and it, it was just time for me to kind of venture off to figure things out in a different way
Yeah.
and offer what I bring to the table in a different way as well, because I don't feel that I'm the same as I was.
Yeah. I love that. And I know that you work hard to be an effective co-parent with your ex-husband. And I think when you approach it that way, that this is a partnership and the goal is to raise wonderful humans, you approach that relationship in a lot more of an effective way too, right? Yeah,
Absolutely,
I love
absolutely.
it. I love it.
Ownership and
Yeah,
um, we belong to ourselves at the end of the day, right? I work a lot with spirituality and energy, and I do believe that it's easy to get attached.
sure.
But, we belong to ourselves and we need to make our own decisions on where we want to go and how we want to get there. And
Mm.
this is hard. It's so hard. I'm not
Yes.
minimizing the pain of it at all, but it's something everyone faces in life, and we need to keep pushing through.
Yeah, for sure. So Reena has taken my leadership style quiz, and we're going to talk about her leadership style in a minute. If you want to know a bit more about how you show up as a leader in your business and also in your life, you can take the quiz right now. The link is in the show notes. You can pop over there and do it. It takes just a few moments. It's fun. It's going to show you a little bit about yourself. You can find the button on the websites on the homepage. It says take the quiz. And then you can compare notes, like what kind of leader you are with what kind of leader Reena is. But go take the quiz right now. It's gonna give you a little new insight today that you can take away and use. Reena, what kind of leader are you? What's important to you in that leadership space, I guess?
I think, Lindsay, it was the coaching that came out
Yeah.
predominant from your quiz. And I'm actually surprised. I'm going to be honest. I'm actually surprised that that was the result, because I just always felt like I was maybe more directive, but maybe I'm like that as a mom, just very bossy to my kids, or they tell me that all the time. I don't know, but um,
Right?
I know, but I think coaching, and possibly because I felt that along my own journey professionally, I've always been in the present and been blessed to be in the presence of mentors and role models who have coached me along the way.
Yeah.
I was normally, every time I entered an organization on the HR professional development side, I was normally one of the youngest leaders in the organization. So I felt that I had a lot to learn.
Yeah.
I had a lot to establish. I
Yeah.
needed to kind of earn my right to be at the table, right or wrong, but that's the
Yeah.
reality of the workplace. And so I would always look to opportunities to see how I was being coached and how valuable that was for me. So I guess along the way, here I am at age 45 now in the position where I have an opportunity to also coach, which is pretty rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I love that. I love that it was surprising to you, and I hope those of you that are listening and take the quiz, it may be surprising to you too. I would also offer that, we get to be all of those styles. Maybe we have one that's a little bit more predominant for you and I. It's really that coaching approach. We really want to be the guide for others to have the experience. But there's moments where we do need to be really directive. I need this done on this date at this time in this way. We need to be able to delegate effectively in order to grow our businesses. I mean, you and I, we see it all the time. Leaders that cannot delegate effectively and they get crushed. And in the same token, they completely disengage teams and really great people. We need to be able to support. People need cheerleading. They
Mhm.
need they need the encouragement. They need to hear they're doing it, like all of it. So I think we lean in one direction, but we've got to be able to use all of it at some point or another.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, I think that that's the beauty of, I did this psychometric assessment through the Smart Collaboration through Harvard Business Review with Dr. Gardner. And this is a couple of years ago now, but it focuses, Lindsay, on behaviors that when you're in a team, very different than Myers-Briggs, but it focuses on the behaviors that would be most effective in a team environment and what ability and skill you can bring to the table for that specific project. It is so brilliant and so beautifully executed when you can roll out this program to a team,
Yeah.
that the project itself, like the outcome, is undeniably successful. Every objective is achieved if you're able to implement that psychometric assessment, like that neuroscience behind
Yeah.
it together.
Well, and Rena and I'll have to be careful because we could probably nerd out and have a 2-hour podcast on psychometric assessments and team dynamics, because
Or
that's the kind of stuff that we really get down with. But yeah, I mean, I think, even a lot of the people that listen to this podcast are small business owners. And so they have very small teams. But the idea that you get the right people doing the right thing, showing up in the right way, can make a big difference, especially when you have a team that's only 5 or 15 or 25 people,
right.
right? And then you think about some of the bigger, more highly matrixed organizations, the big collaborative projects, you need people that are divergent thinkers. You need people that are detail oriented, who are going to check all the boxes off and make sure that they highlight things with red pen. You need people that are big sky. Like, you've got to be able to bring these people together effectively. And I think that's where being a coach style leader actually, like, that's the advantage there. That's the secret sauce in those spaces. What do you think, Reena?
No, you've hit it on you've hit the nail on the head here, Lindsay. I think also to hold ourselves accountable, right?
Yeah.
I think so much humility in saying, wow, I really messed up. This is what I could have done better, right? I mean, I think leaders often feel this challenge to admit a mistake they may have made. But there's a lot of respect in a leader standing up and saying, you know what? This is what I could have done better. I really messed that up. But this is what I'm going to do to take care of it. And so
Yes.
holding yourself accountable is important because it does allow your team to hold themselves accountable too, right?
Totally. You set the tone in that, right? I think that that's exact, like, and I hear that a lot. I don't know about you, but I hear that a lot from the individuals that I work with. Well, I want my team to have better ownership. Well, guess what? If you want them to own it, you better own it. Like, you have to demonstrate those kinds of behaviors, and you can't tell them to have ownership and not do that yourself, because people have a low threshold for that kind of garbage.
Mhm. Absolutely. And that's why we see a lot of, retention struggles and turnover. And,
Yeah.
and a lot of times leaders will say, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm like, okay, how much time do you have?
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
conversation. So
Right.
I mean this from the bottom of my heart. And the goal is to make you be the most effective leader that you possibly can. So let's walk. Let's grab a
Yeah.
coffee and let's walk. Yeah.
Right? Totally. I love it. How much time do you have? But it's the truth, right? Like, we have to be able to be self-reflective and understand, or get a coach who can really help you
Mhm.
see what is real, where you're showing up and you're maybe falling down. Also, I think where you're showing up and you're actually really nailing it. Because I think that's the other part, is we underestimate where we are actually really delivering and how
Right.
great we are in that space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we equally, as leaders, Lindsay, we equally need that feedback.
Mhm.
We don't always have the coaches or,
Mhm.
the executives or the life coaches with us to say, okay, this is objectively where I see you lacking, and this is where you need to perform better. I mean, I ask all the time, and I need that feedback because how else would I know where I need to improve?
Yeah, it's true. It's really true. I love that. I also want to ask you, where have you made mistakes or missteps, and what have you learned from that, in particular in the last 4 years?
Oh, Lindsay, where have I not made mistakes and missteps? Truly, right? The number of times I've tied a noose around my neck over 20 years in the roles that I was in, I can't even count on my hands and toes. So that I say with the utmost honesty, because I think that everyone messes up and we need to, so that we can learn and say, wow, shit, looking back, I could have done that so much better. In the last four, if I were to look specifically, Lindsay, I was so stuck. And stuck meaning I
Mm.
was so used to having the power of leaving, the power of choice in a corporate setting where, Kate, time to move. I'm getting attached. Here we go. Next. And I built a home, and it was a project that I'm going to say, up until very recently, took going on 5 years. And I couldn't leave. And it was the first time in my entire, from what I can remember, 25 years, where I was forced to stay and deal with it, deal with who was in my life, how the emotions. I had no choice.
Mm.
The house had kept me. It was almost like this. This is the lesson we're going to teach you, Reena, is you can't just up and leave. You
Wow.
have to face what you're feeling. You have to deal with the emotions. I talk and read about Susan David's emotional agility practice and, philosophy all the time, and I was not applying it to my own life. And here I was stuck and I had no choice but to stay because the project is not going to finish without me present. I had to stay connected to the people there, which was emotionally connecting me, and I had no choice but to live through that.
Mhm.
Um, so there was a lot of moments where I learned a lot about myself and how I needed to navigate relationships in different ways and just actually honor what I was feeling and being truthful to myself and just giving myself some grace too. Thank God. It's been a long 5 years. Like, it's okay, Reena. Come on. Go with it. Make the decisions. You're okay. You did this. It is what it is. That's life. Like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I thank you. I really appreciate that. And I love that. I mean, the idea of building a home it's an enormous project. It's filled with so much complexity. Um,
Mhm.
and I love the universe gave you that and held your feet to the fire.
I know. I know.
Wow.
I wish there were so many moments where again I hit rock bottom and thought I'm not doing this, and it was too much. Everything was too much, and the decisions and everything just kind of hit me at once. And if I thought if I can do this once, and if anyone can do something once, you can always do it again, better, stronger, wiser. Um, and if I can get through this to the end in the way that it's meant to get to the end for, then at least I can look back and say, I did it. I learned. I lost. I loved. I hurt. Um, everything that you can possibly think I went through, but I got out, and it's 2024. It was meant to be the year where a lot of chapters are finally closing,
Yeah.
and I can see this clear road ahead of me that's giving me butterflies. To be honest, I feel like this excitement that this is the year.
Yeah.
I have to go through it, but once you get to the end of it, something beautiful is always going to be waiting there. And I just,
Yeah.
like, if there's a message I need to say is as hard as something is when you're in the moment of going through it, don't stop, get the help, reach out, find your people, find your team, but just don't stop believing in yourself. Because once
Mm.
you get there, you'll always get there. You'll always get through it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. That was really powerful. And I think, you're so right.
Yeah.
You'll get through it. You'll be okay. Um,
Hmm.
and we're stronger than we give ourselves credit for. I
Yeah.
think so much of the time we underestimate our ability and our strength. And asking for help is actually an act of courage. And I think we see it as weakness, but in fact, it's the opposite. It's deep strength to sit to reach out and say, I need support. I
I
need
know.
coaching. I just need someone to listen.
I know. I would never reach out to anyone unless I felt that that person was meaningful. I respected them, and I felt that they had something that could help me grow as a person, that I
Mhm.
wanted to learn from
Yeah,
them. And that's been a pattern with me is the people that I do reach out to and say, hey, I would love your help in ABC. It's because I actually really value them. I value them. I've seen what they've been able to do. I admire them in a way. And so I've learned that. And I hope that what I sometimes struggle with, Lindsay, is people can, not go beyond my own bio. I'm starting this blog for the purpose of trying to be a little bit more real and show myself who I am, my journey beyond my bio, because people read and then they get, they either find, okay, well, I don't think I can help Reena, or I don't think she can help me, or this may be too sophisticated, the type of work she does, look at the
right,
clients she has. And so then I lose a lot of opportunity to actually have someone pick up the phone and just say, okay, let's grab a coffee.
right.
The bio is meant to showcase and highlight what I've done, yes. But you need to get to know me in person if you want to work with me. I could be very different than what you're reading. We just
Right,
have to see if the synergies are going
right.
to match.
The real person behind. I love that. I love that you're just generally creating those beautiful connections. I think that's so important.
Mhm.
Um, I'm really, really grateful to have had this conversation with you today. Thank you for sharing your beautiful story, your journey and all the ups and downs of that, and so much of your beautiful wisdom with us. I'm super grateful that you would do that.
Lindsay, you made it easy, right? This was, I think what you're doing is highlighting just again the beauty of storytelling, how we can showcase who we are, what we've been through beyond what we read about people. And so I thank you. I thank you for making it easy for me to share.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Wow, I am so lucky. I get to have the best conversations with the most incredible female entrepreneurs. And I hope you enjoyed the show too. If you did, can you go and give me a 5-star review wherever you listen to this podcast and share it with a couple of your business besties? I'd really appreciate your support. And I'd also love to see you at the free Rockstar Recruitment Bootcamp that's going live on March the 25th. We're going to spend an hour a day together every day that week to really talk about my best tips and tricks to help you as a female founder find the top talent that you need for your business. And of course, you're absolutely welcome to bring one of your business besties with you. Thanks again for being here today, and I hope you can join us for the next episode.